All right, everyone. It's Marshall Atkinson. Thank you for the episode of Forward Progress, where we kind of talk about things that can help you run your business better. And today, I'm so happy to have Dan Berger, who is the president and CEO of the, I'll always screw this up. It's the NAFCU. So that's the National Association of Federally-Insured Credit Unions, correct, Dan? Is that right?
Correct. NAFCU. We call it NAFCU for short.
NAFCU. And you may have seen Dan on CNN or any of the news shows that are financial networks, all kind of stuff. And you might wonder, how is Marshall getting Dan to do this show? Well, I went to college with Dan, and that's how I know. Anyway, we're both Seminoles, so you can start cracking the jokes now if you want. But so Dan, you live in Washington, D.C., and you've got your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the country. So we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. So before we get into things, why don't you just kind of give people your origin story, talk about what you're about, and how you got involved with leading the charge on the credit union front.
Sure. Thank you, Marshall. Good seeing you, my brother. Anybody didn't know, he's also my fraternity brother, Pi Kappa Phi down at Florida State. And so anything for my brothers, and Marshall's been a friend since the mid 80s.
Yeah, a long time.
So it's great to be on the show, and I appreciate the invite and love talking to you anytime. But I got started. I ran campaigns in high school and college, and became a lobbyist right out of Florida State, and been in the part of the political process and the legislative process my entire career. And then became chief of staff for a congresswoman in Washington, D.C., and moved up from Florida to Washington, D.C., was chief of staff for a little bit, and then kicked out and became a lobbyist in financial services. And then about 6-7 years ago, I was appointed CEO of the trade association that I used to be the head lobbyist for. And so that's how I'm here. I advocate on behalf of 6,000 credit unions around the country and the 122 million American consumers that they serve, and that includes small businesses. And I love it. I have the best job in the world. Absolutely love it.
That's fantastic. And so thank you so much. And we want to get going with some topics here. So our first one is really talking about a credit union advantage for small businesses. So a lot of folks use Bank of America or TransUnion or whatever for their bank, right? And I think credit unions are often kind of looked past. They're not really even thought of as a business bank. And so what's going on with that, and why should they really give credit unions a better look?
Well, first and foremost, we're not-for-profit credit unions. We're a financial institution where you own it. You become a member of a credit union, you're one of the owners. It's a cooperative like Ocean Spray and some of the other stuff that's out there. And so you're an owner of it. And so they don't have shareholders. They don't have to worry about analysts on Wall Street. So everything's done through the filter, what's in the best interest of the credit union member or the small business member. And so with that, you get better interest rates on loans, you get higher savings returns, and quite frankly, you get the best service out there. You get the best member service. People are very responsive because, again, banks, they fill a niche. There's nothing bad about banks, but if you want better service and you want better rates, credit unions are where it's at, because it's a democratically controlled financial institution.
So are there online credit unions? Let's say you live in more of a rural area. You're not actually in a city or a town, because a lot of people are like that, right? Do you have an online credit union?
Almost all credit unions, it's like almost all community banks and stuff. Almost everybody has an online banking component now. Almost everything. This is the mobile bank now. The cell phone is the mobile bank that's going on out there for credit unions as well as for banks. So the mobile component, the technology platforms they use, yeah, they have. If you Google a credit union in your city or state, I guarantee you 99.9% of them have a very robust mobile technology or online banking platform.
Okay, and so having credit unions to give you a better advantage for business, just because they're friendlier, they're better interest rates, and they kind of more on your side than maybe somebody that's a big corporate giant.
That's exactly right. They just, if you have to respond to the financial pressures of Wall Street analysts or the financial pressures of your stock price or your shareholders, that's a different profit motive. They're going to get as many fees out of you as possible up and down the relationship. Credit unions don't have to do that. And so that's the reason you get better rates and charge less fees. The most of them have free checking, things along those lines. And so that kind of service is what credit unions are known for. Less fees, better rates, better service. But it fills a niche that banks didn't fill. And we were created 100 years ago when the big banks were robber barons and charging exorbitant rates, and people got together and put money in a shoebox and started lending money out in a cooperative fashion with the best interest of the workers at that company or that community. And so that's how we were founded 100 years ago, and it's worked. It's a business model that has the consumer first in the forefront of everything, or the small business member in the forefront of everything. So it's just different. It's not a profit motive. It's a member motive.
Right. And you still don't have a shoebox, right?
Oh, yeah. No, they're sophisticated financial institutions. These aren't the credit unions in the basement of the First Baptist Church any longer. These are sophisticated financial institutions that can help you from cradle to grave.
I like the no fee checking. I know a lot of folks in my industry, which is the decorated apparel industry, do a lot of stuff with Profit First, which is the book by Mike Michalowicz. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that book or not, but it's really about doing everything, especially your banking, without fees. And so that could be a good avenue for you if you're a Profit First person. So
no, absolutely. And then if you need lines of credit, the rates are lower. If you need a credit card, the rates are lower. And so there's many aspects for a small business to take a look at a credit union. Google it, it'll pop right up. Credit union locality, call and become a member. The benefits are pretty incredible, and they're out there. We serve 122 American consumers, and there's a reason for that. And we're the best kept secret in financial services.
122, that sounds like a low number. Does that mean to be a higher number?
It's a very high number. I mean, it's a third of the entire country. It does need to be a higher number.
You meant
122 million consumers is huge, and so we sit there. It's almost half of, I guess, the population of the country. I think it should be everybody. Everybody would benefit with lower fees and no fees and better rates.
So have you read that book, Profit First?
No, I'm going to write it down. I'm in the middle of another book right now called Great at Work by Morton Hansen. Oh,
I haven't read that one. So Profit First is a very interesting book. I think you would really like it. So it's really about, if it's for a small business, the concept is that the small business owner sets his business up to take the profit first out of the business, and then what's left over, we run our business on the remainder, right? So it's kind of like the way that, I don't know, housewives used to do things back in the 50s, where they get $200 a week for pay all the bills, and they would divide things up in little envelopes, right? The idea here is similar, is that you take what your profit is supposed to be first, and part of that is the fact that you want all of your customers to pay you up front instead of doing like a net 30. They pay you up front, you take your profit out first, and then you run your business on what's left over, and you're so much better off from a financial position because you have the strength already to do a lot of the things that you want to do. So it's a very interesting book. I think you would, especially with what you're doing, you would find that really interesting. And he's all about finding banks that don't have fees. So
everybody should be. And after the financial crisis of 08, 09, I think we had 75, maybe 80 million American consumers that were members of credit unions. Then after the crisis of 08, 09, we had this flight to safety. and 30, 40 million more Americans goes, hey, I'm tired of the big banks. I'm tired of the fraud at Wells Fargo. I'm tired of all this kind of stuff. And the profit motive of these large institutions is just not taking care of the customer, not taking care of the small business person. And so they went to credit unions. And so now it went from just a few years ago from 75 million American consumers to 122 million. And so that's the reason for it. And it's continuing to grow.
Okay, good. Hey, if you're watching, don't forget, if you've got a question for me or Dan, please throw it in the comments. And we'd also like to say hi. So just let us know who you are and where you're watching from if you got a minute. So let's get to the next topic, which is really all about next year. I think right now it's only a couple of weeks away. Everybody's really focused on what's going on with their business. And I know you've got your finger on the pulse with a lot of things that are happening. So from a small business perspective, what should we be thinking about for planning for next year, especially for Q1 and Q2, where everything is kind of weird still, maybe, right? So what do you think, if I'm a business owner right now, what should I be looking at? What should I be really paying attention to?
Yeah, I gave a speech not too long ago via video, unfortunately, to a group of small business for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And we had a very interesting panel talking about this very issue. And so what we discussed, and everybody's talking about different things to focus on, whether it's the economy, and I know we'll get into some of that. But from our standpoint was, we don't want people, yes, things are tough, and there's some headwinds we're going to have to deal with, but you got to lean in. You have to have a strategy and a business plan to fight through this, and you can do it. And those that have the marketing and the customer engagement that you have to have from a strategic standpoint is extremely important. The second part of that is to make sure that you have trusted partners, whatever it is, whether it's the suppliers or some distributors or something. Make sure you have some really strong, trusted partners. And then lastly, you have to execute. The most important part of all this, there's no sense having a strategy and trusted partners if you don't execute on that plan. And so what we've been telling people is you got to lean in. And we're going to get out of this. We have. Remember, I've been through multiple black swans events in my career. The savings and loan crisis, 9/11, the financial crisis of 08 and 09. And the one thing is that I believe in wholeheartedly is the spirit of American small business. They will always come through it. Will there be pains? Will there be headwinds? Absolutely. But if you have a good strategy, you have good partners, and you execute, you can weather this storm and come out of it even stronger. You can't be in the fetal position, balled up in a corner and doing nothing. You have to lean in, have a plan, and execute.
And so I know a friend of mine who actually just acquired a business. He just bought a business. He's been trying to buy a business since this one particular company since 2015. And that was his plan all along. Here we are in 2020. And he went ahead and did it anyway, because what is he going to do? This is my plan from 5 years ago. Because it came available this year. That's the reason he had to do it. And so it's like, you have to move forward. You have to be thinking about things. Of course, he's been planning on buying it all along. It wasn't like a giant surprise. But so I think I really like a lot of the things that you just said, especially the lean in kind of concept about what's happening and really focusing your attention on your customers. And I like the idea of asking them questions, asking about their pain points, asking about how you can help, right? And even if that's not a sale for you, if you can connect them with somebody else, that's all about relationship building, and that empathy goes a long way usually.
No, I completely agree. And you want to be helpful. You want to be there and help others through this painful period, because we have a lot of our fellow Americans out there. They're struggling. A lot of the small business folks may be struggling that are watching this show right now. So if you're helpful, think of like if you're out of work and someone helps you go find a job, you remember that forever. So if you're helpful to somebody right now, that really, really sticks with them forever. I mean, that's something that people remember forever. And that's just a really strong way to maintain that relationship and that customer. But even better is if you exceed expectations. And that's the whole thing. Because right now, there's so much negativity out there. We went through a very hostile political election. The political environment is still relatively hostile here in Washington, D.C. So the level of expectation for service, the level of expectation for customer delivery of products and services and solutions is at an all-time low. So if you can beat expectations, that is just another powerful component. Help people and deliver above expectations, exceed expectations.
Right. I love it. I love it. So I got some people saying hello. So Josta from Uppsala, Sweden says hi. And then Prakul Tas, I can't pronounce your name. Sorry, I know I just butchered it. So he says, this is Jay from India and we support. Looks like you got cut off, Jay. So, but anyway, it's interesting that we got two comments and they're both not from America.
International. That's great. Love it.
Yeah. So anyway, if you're an American, not dissing our international guests, but if you're an American, please say hello. All right. So anyway, I think this is a really good segue into what's on the back of everybody's mind, which is about the economy opening up. And I know it's on the forefront of my brain because I've been locked down in my COVID castle. My last business trip was March the 5th. A lot of my personal businesses, just went away, and I've done new things and all kinds of stuff. And I'm just looking at 2021 planning. I'm starting to travel again at the end of January, beginning of February. And my gut tells me that when Biden takes office and we start doing some stuff and the vaccine, which hopefully, I don't know, I wasn't watching the news. I don't know if they approved it today or not. But once we get everything kind of going, it seems to me like Q2, Q3, things could really start opening up a little bit. That's just my gut, right? But I don't live in Washington, D.C., and I'm not a lobbyist. So what do you feel could be happening if things all kind of click together? What's the crystal ball tell you, Dan?
Well, you're lucky you don't live in Washington, D.C. We're in our little bubble here. The economy, we saw some light at the end of the tunnel here in Q4. Many segments of our economy are doing well, especially housing was doing well. Auto sales were doing extremely well. So other segments of the economy are doing pretty well. Of course, restaurants and hospitality are still struggling mightily out there. And so that's the reason we have to really get another stimulus package passed, and we're pushing. There's only 8 days left in the legislative calendar before they go home for the holidays. And so we're all lobbying very hard to push that stimulus package and then to make sure that there's money out there to help Americans. I mean, there are a lot of people out there that are struggling. I think it gets done. I think it's taken longer. I think it'll wait till the last minute before it occurs. It'll be one of those, the deal's not the deal until it's the deal. And that means that just right up to the deadline, everything gets shut down before they get on their planes and head back to their home states. But I think a deal gets done. I still think the vaccine, remember, the vaccine's helpful. The delivery and distribution and dissemination of the vaccine across the country and across the globe is helpful. But you got to remember, not all vaccines aren't 100% effective. Okay, it's just the people still get the flu, even though they got the flu shot. So that's still going to occur. We're going to be living with this for years. This is never going to go away. It's like any other flu or the N1, what was it, N1, F1, whatever, all the bird flu that was out there. Yep. I mean, the influenza, I mean, you live with it. It's like the cold. There's no vaccine. There's no cure. There's never going to be a cure. And so we're going to learn to live with it in some kind of hybrid capacity. I think Q1 will still be some struggles and some headwinds. Q2, I think it starts getting a little bit better. The trouble that I see out there is people are equating how well the stock market is doing with the economy. And those are two separate things. The economy is not the stock market. Yeah. And there's a sugar high in corporate America. With all the money that's being printed by the Federal Reserve and Treasury, it's a sugar high, and it can't last forever. And so those companies, people have to realize when it comes to the stock market, they're looking for future earnings, and they're going to have to make some major sales in order to hit those revenue targets, and that's going to be some major headwinds. But I think the economy starts straightening out in Q3 of next year. But I think the first 2 quarters of next year will be some pretty major headwinds.
Yeah, I've always had a big problem with people equating the economy with the stock market, because I don't know about you, but all of my customers, they're not on the index, right? So they're small businesses, and they're not on that. You can't look them up on the Wall Street Journal, right? Because they're that bar, they're that restaurant. My personal customers are these small business owners that are in the decorated apparel industry. So they've got 3 to maybe 100 people that work for them, and they're trying to do their thing. And right now, they're at some of them are 50-60% capacity with their staff. Actually, they've learned to be more profitable because they've dropped a lot of their labor, right? But we're all trying to come back from this. But what's happening is none of that's showing up on the numbers that you see every day. The Dow Jones average or whatever, that's not the small business, right? That's big business. And I think a lot of the small business concerns really gets overlooked a lot. It doesn't get talked about a lot. But if you really look at what our economy is mostly small businesses are where all the paychecks are coming from. More people work in small businesses than they do work for the big business. And
you're exactly right.
And so it's really kind of, I wish more of our leaders would talk about that and recognize that and really kind of do stuff. I'm very excited about if there's going to be more stimulus money for small businesses, and how available that's going to be, right? And actually, that is my next topic is small business loans and help with the new administration, right? Once that comes out, right? How does it work for a credit union? I know a lot of people were struggling to get it from a larger institution because I heard all those horror stories, right? What's it like at a credit union? Because that's kind of your ballpark.
That's the same. And not every institution, not every bank does commercial lending. Not every credit union does commercial lending. The vast majority do. So they're just going to put that in the back of your mind a little bit. But credit unions provided a huge amount of PPP loans during the first and second round of PPP funding. And so I would encourage you, if you're a small business, you want to get a PPP loan, look up your local credit union. If you're already a member, go to your credit union. If they're your primary financial institution. But yeah, we do those types of loans. I do believe there'll be another round of funding for that. I think they're really looking to provide it not just for small businesses like the environment you work in, but also for hotels and for restaurants and things along those lines, because they employ so many people. But you're exactly right. Small business is the economic engine of our country, and they employ far more than the medium and large businesses out there. And so we need to give them the help that they need that's out there, give them the liquidity. Everything's about cash flow, and you know that.
Yep.
Cash is king. Cash flow is king. You got to get paid so you can pay yourself and feed your families and feed your employees or pay your employees. And so those things matter. But there'll be another round of PPP funding, I'm pretty sure. I think the Biden administration is putting together a pretty solid team in terms from an economic standpoint. And I think that, with Yellen heading up Treasury, she is a voice of reason. And I think you'll see additional stimulus to assist small business.
Do you think that gets done before the inauguration?
No.
So we're really looking at February then.
Yeah, I think the stimulus package for individuals, whether it's for unemployment and things along those lines, will get done before the end of the year. But any other PPP program will probably be after the inauguration.
Okay. And of course, we're all what's going to happen in Georgia, right, really is going to help things if it's going to get passed easier or not. I think,
Well, we'll see. There's two sides of that coin. Georgia's that's just a whole nother discussion. You don't have enough time to even dive into that one.
Well, I try to stay very neutral because everybody has a different opinion and stuff. And I'm on this type of deal. I want to be kind of in the middle, so I don't take sides. I have my own opinion.
We're a nonpartisan. We're a nonpartisan organization. We lobby everybody. We
Right.
lobby Republicans, Democrats. I got libertarian lobbyists on staff. I mean, we lobby everybody. We're nonpartisan, and we have friends on both sides of the aisle. We're credit unions. We're
Right.
not-for-profit financial institutions. We are literally the white hat of banking. Okay, we're the white hat of financial services. We have friends in both parties, and that's the reason they help us continue to do good things for the American consumer.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's very, very interesting. So we've got a couple minutes. Anybody's got some questions, please ask Dan. And Artem's here. He's from the West Coast. He's a Russian American. So it's ethnicity day, I guess, here, but that's all cool.
You're global, man. You're global.
We love everyone. So, and Artem's really cool. So he has the distinction for our Portland, Oregon Shirt Lab, Dan, our networking event. When we do them live, we always go to like a brewery or something the night before. And we have as a networking tool, we have a March Madness style rock, paper, scissors challenge. And he brought home the trophy for that event. So
Portland used to be one of my favorite cities in the whole world.
It used to be. It's not now?
No.
What replaced it?
Well, anything in the Florida Keys is.
Well, yeah, I know you go to the Keys all the time.
Yeah, I enjoy the Keys, and I also enjoy the mountains of Colorado a lot. The political strife in Portland is problematic for me, and
I see.
That's a whole nother discussion that we can get into.
Well,
we used to do conferences, and we've done conferences in Portland and Seattle and places like that. And so before I put my attendees or my staff at risk, I would like to see a little more stable political environment. Let's put it that way.
Well, we had
the best breweries in the country.
Yeah, we had our event at Clark College.
Yep.
And it was fantastic. So
it's one of my classmates from grad school lives in Portland. Just a beautiful city and just great.
Mm-hmm.
And but I just need to see it get a little cleaned up and stabilized. But I love Portland.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So all right. So what else is going on with you, Dan? Are you appearing anywhere? If somebody learn more about what you do? I know you have a blog. Do you want to kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I would just encourage them. And I don't know if you've got a Chiron you can put up, but you go to our website, NAFCU.org. We have lots of resources that talk about the various small business issues that we work on. My blog is on our main webpage at NAFCU.org. I'm on LinkedIn. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn. Love to connect, and if I can be helpful in any way, let me know, because that's what we're here for, is to help credit unions as well as help the small businesses that they serve. So let me know how I can be of assistance.
Yeah, I'm showing your webpage right now with you walking down the steps of the Capitol. Is that your team?
That's the guy on the left is Randy Salser. He's president of NAFCU Services, which is our for-profit subsidiary. And the young lady to the right is Carrie Hunt. She's my EVP in Government Affairs and General Counsel. And the gentleman to the far right is my COO, Anthony Demingon. Well,
great. She looks really short.
she is petite, but she is one of the smartest people. Oh, she's so smart and an absolute bulldog when it comes to advocating for our industry.
And your blog is what, right here under blogs?
Under blogs.
Right, Berger
Leadership blog. We got a whole slew of them.
Yeah, I read your blog every time it comes out, and I like it because you do a really good job of curating ideas and kind of repackaging them a little bit with, hey, I read this book or I talked to this person or whatever, and here's the 6 things you should know. And
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I read about 2 books a month, primarily change management, leadership books, customer service type of books, and about 2 a month, and no new ideas are being printed, and just all kind of reminders and stuff. And you always need to be reminded. You need that kind of catalyst to kind of maybe kick you in the rear a little bit, and you go, you know what, I need to work on that a little bit more.
Right.
Or you have another idea. He goes, no, I remember reading that before 10 years ago. I need to work on that a little bit more. I need to put that into practice and those lines. And that's kind of how I aggregate that information. Something that I'm reading triggers that thought process. And I do try to share that out there. It's been really popular, and I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
What are you reading right now?
The book I have, let's see if I can get it without spilling everything out. I'm reading Great at Work.
Oh, cool. You're like me. Look at this. Want to see something? Here's what I'm reading right now. It's
Great at Work.
Called The Practice.
I use
look, pink Post-it notes just like you.
Yeah, we didn't coordinate either, did we, Marshall? So that's what I'm reading right now. It's a good book. But these are the kind of books I read 1 or 2 a month, and it's helpful. I also I have an executive coach that's been helping me since I became CEO.
Yeah, John Spence, right?
John Spence. And I encourage anybody that wants to read a clean, easy, very, very helpful book. Look at John Spence at johnspence.com. Phenomenal. I mean, he's a consultant to Fortune 100 companies. He's my executive coach. And I can't tell you how helpful he's been to me in working on my blind spots that we all have. And but he's done stuff for Apple and Coca-Cola and Anheuser-Busch and NAFCU and small business and large business. But he's extremely helpful, and I encourage everybody to pick up a couple of his books. He's on Amazon. He's got a blog as well, but he's super, super powerful.
Yeah, I love him a lot, and he's also a Pi Kappa Phi, and his book is awesomely simple.
Yep, he's got several books, but that is probably his best book. And he is a fraternity brother. And he's also from my hometown of Gainesville, Florida. And so that's where he lives, and he's tremendous. So for those that are listening to this, look him up, johnspence.com.
All right, so we have a question. So my complete business is in the U.S., which is virtual assistants for the promo industry. And with the current COVID situation, promo distributors have less to spend. And in place of hiring a VA, they're doing most of the stuff themselves. Is this permanent, or do you think things will change, and with business growth, they will need again virtual assistants for order management so they can focus on sales?
I think there will always be a need for it. I think there will always be a need for virtual assistants, and so there'll be a component. I think it'll be 2-tiered. You'll have the in-person, and then you'll have the virtual. I think it'll be a 2-tiered, what we call a hybrid situation going on. I think that's the way it'll be going in for the future. And it's just like when you're talking about payments, you go, oh, everybody invested in contactless payments and cards where you tap and go. No one wanted to touch anything. No one wants to pay by cash. And so do you think it's going to revert back to the old ways? I said, no, it'll probably be a combination. And so it's a good question, but I think it'll be a little bit in the middle, probably a hybrid.
Yeah, well, people learn a different way. They stick to it. Like, I can't tell you how much we're enjoying now ordering off an iPad and going to the grocery store, and they put it in your car. And what's really great about that is we're actually spending less because I'm not just throwing the Oreos in like I always do, right? So
yeah, but my problem's on the beer aisle, but I get your point.
Yeah, so but it's just one of these things where people are learning that there's a better way or a different way of doing stuff, and maybe that can increase sales. But for you, Cool. I wish I knew how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry, I'm really butchering it. I'm actually know somebody that's looking for some VA work in this area. So can you reach out to me? Here's my email address. I need to have a conversation with you, okay? Or somebody on your team, right? It doesn't have to be you. So Marshall at marshallatkinson.com. Maybe I can hook you up. So
great. That's what this is about, helping each other. See?
Yeah. Right.
Perfect. I love that.
Yeah. And so anyway, so getting back to talking about books, I love reading. I read about a book a week, and I journal as I'm reading, and I write blogs just like you do. And but I use kind of my journal sometimes as an idea shaker, and when I need to do something. And I also like to inject new ideas into my brain. So
yeah, I wish I had the discipline to do a journal. I got so many moving parts with my daily stuff, but I send myself a ton of emails.
Right.
And in the middle of the night, during the day, I'll send myself emails, and I create folders on the various topics, and I play. I guess it's kind of like a journal, but that's how I organize my thoughts, because I don't want to lose it. If something brilliant comes up at 2 a.m, I email myself and I put it in my whatever file, whichever folder that I'm looking at. And so, but I do the same thing. I think it's great. You have to read. You have to be a lifelong learner, I believe, to be successful. I know it's hard to do, but I do it to unwind, quite frankly. After a long day, that's kind of how I start my evening, is to read a book. And so it's really helpful on both fronts. Helps me fall asleep and unwind, but also gives me great ideas.
Yeah, I start the day with reading, so I have 30 minutes a day, sometimes longer. And I read at night too. So, by the end of the week, I've finished the book. Like this book I'm reading now, which is by Seth Godin, and he's awesome. And I'll blow through this soon. And
Seth is terrific. He's also a great speaker. I've hired him a couple times. So
yeah, he's fantastic.
He's absolutely terrific, and you just sit down with him, and you just, through osmosis, you learn. It's just amazing what he does. But I read in the morning too on my treadmill. I have an aggregator, and I read all the news, because we have all the stuff, whether it's Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, all the political rags that we have in Washington, D.C., just probably 7 or 8 of them. So I go through all that kind of stuff. And then I have all the Google Analytics stuff sending me all the articles that mentions credit unions or banking or financial services. Then I have all the economic stuff that comes in financial services that comes. And so, yeah, I do about the same thing, but it's not pleasurable. It's just news. It's just impactful.
Right. So I have a question for you, and this is not something I prepared for, but so how, in your kind of sphere, right, how many employees are you managing? What's your bubble?
We are a $20 million company with 70 employees.
Okay. So you're 70 employees. How are you empowering and keeping a culture going and really driving home the key things that you want to build more service or make customers happier or whatever? What are you doing every single day that's really kind of banging that gong for everybody to kind of have all the canoes paddle the same direction?
Communicate, and then we communicate some more, both with phone calls, videos like this, emails primarily, but we talk about it all the time. And from our standpoint, we're a trade association. We're lobbyists. We lobby for credit unions in Washington, D.C., Congress, the White House, our prudential regulators. And so, but we're member service related. And so we call it extreme member service internally. So anything we do. So if you get lost in my phone tree, the young man in my mailroom can help you as much as I can. Everybody is empowered to provide extreme member service. And we just pound that message over and over again. Help the member. I mean, be immediate, be responsive. And that's what we're known for. And that's one of our values, is that responsiveness. And we just talk about it on a regular basis. And we talk about it literally every day. If you ask one of my colleagues, what are you tired of hearing Dan say? it'd be extreme member service. And that's one of the things John Spence taught me was you're not communicating enough. And it says, because when you communicate and you said, yeah, I told them twice, there's always a segment of your employees that heard it just once. Because
Right.
there's a difference between hearing and listening.
Sure.
And so you have to repeat yourself over and over again. And for me, being, type A, borderline ADHD, I got stuff to do. I got my to-do list I start my day with. Usually I do it the night before. And so I'm ready to go and I'm launching, I'm checking stuff off and I'm go, go, go. And I communicated that message. I gave that idea and sometimes you have to do it over and over again. And that was something that I work on every day, quite frankly. And
Right.
it's one of those blind spots, but you cannot communicate to your employees or to your colleagues enough. When you think you're tired of communicating, you still have communicating to do. It's the most important aspect of anything you do from a managerial or leadership component. You have to communicate. And that's everything. That's just not directives and things you want them to do, but that's the kudos. I mean, celebrate those little victories. Celebrate those little things that are going on. Communicate that. And so that's what I learned from John and with his executive coaching. You got to communicate the hell out of stuff. You have to go, 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 or you're just not going to be successful.
Right. Yeah. And I love that. And I can't remember where I read it, but it's something along the lines that the average person needs to hear something at least 7 times before it really sinks in.
Yeah, there's an advertiser. That's kind of a mantra for advertisers. The consumer had to hear it, 7, 8 times before it's stuck. And employees are no different. And it's just, but if you think about it, gosh, I wish they would listen to you the first time, but they've got issues at home. They have a bunch of stuff on their plate they're trying to get accomplished. And you think that they're hearing you or listening to you. And it's just, you have to communicate. And some of the best ways to do that is some positive reinforcement, really talk to them and praise them for the stuff they're doing well. And then they get in the habit of listening a little bit more. Right. And so it's important to continue to communicate.
Right. And Yosta says, get 1% better every day and enjoy the process.
Nailed it.
I'm sorry?
He nailed it. That's perfect.
Yeah, right. And that was mentioned a lot in James Clear's awesome book, Atomic Habits, by the way.
No, that's exactly right. I was about to mention that. That beat me. He beat me to it. But you get 1% better. There's no possible way for you not to be successful. And you got to grind through it. There's going to be days that you don't work. So you got to look back and you have to put your ego aside and critique yourself and go, what can I do better today? Well, you know what? I could be a little more responsive to some of my team members. Or I could call just a few more customers or call just a few more, just to touch base. I don't need anything from them. I don't want anything from them. I'm not trying to sell to them, but as I'm touching base, saying hello, anything I do to be of help, just that extra 1% in every aspect of your life, you will be successful. So right on from Sweden.
Yeah, it's all about taking action. So we have one last comment and then we'll close up. So Percool says, as more and more people are losing jobs, are we going to see more people doing their own business and using their expertise in the industry they are from, or temporarily they will live off the help from the government and still wait for a job? I see a lot of sales reps planning to go on their own, or the smaller distributors will slowly fade while the bigger ones take most of the market share. Please forgive me for such long questions. Hey, don't worry about that. So you've got some really good questions here. So Dan, I've got my own opinion on this, and I'm happy to share that, but I'd rather hear from you, Dan. What do you think about his comment about people just waiting or maybe launching their own business? That's 2 different kind of thoughts, rather than I'm not going to find a job. What do you think is going to happen?
A combination of both. There's always going to be a segment of our society that don't want to work. And that's part of the problem that was going on with some of the unemployment stimulus that was out there. If people were making $500 a week, government pays them $600 a week, there's no incentive for them to go back to work. So there's got to be some balance, at least part of the discussion talking about that. If you look at it in the past, all the entrepreneurial stuff that happened after every Black Swan event, there's a spike in small job creation after a major Black Swan event. And it just, there'd be entrepreneurs out there going, you know what, I'm going to go out on my own. I'm going to go do this. I always wanted to be a landscaper. I always wanted to do something. I wanted to be a butcher. I wanted to, you know, create T-shirts or decorative apparel, whatever it is. There's going to be a component out there that them losing their job and their paycheck is an incentive, is a catalyst to become an entrepreneur and start a small business. But you're always going to have a group of folks that are always going to live off the government, and it's unfortunate. But you know, there's people that need help, and we should help those people. But sometimes there's a level of funding that we give people that becomes a disincentive, and then that's where the problem lies.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people right now, that side hustle they have is now their full-time gig.
No, that's exactly right.
And I know I know actually a lot of people that are doing that. They were just doing some little thing, and now they lost their job, and now we're full tilt in it because there's no excuse, right? And a lot of times that job that you had was the excuse for you not doing what you're meant to be doing, frankly. And actually, this book that I'm reading right now is all about that. And this is all about shipping creative work, and which is, doing your own art. And if you read a lot of Seth Godin, your art doesn't necessarily mean you're a sculptor or a painter. It just means that you're creating the thing that you have in the back of your head. You're actually doing it instead of just pretending you're doing it. And so good question. Thank you. All right. All right, cool. So Dan, just to wrap up here, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Go Seminoles, always.
Go Noles, go Pie Caps. Thank you, Marshall. I was honored to be part of it this evening. Anytime you like to be bored with what's going on in Washington, D.C., I'll come on and chat with you. And but again, I really appreciate it. Appreciate the friendship.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, don't go anywhere. I'm just going to end the thing. So thanks everybody for watching, and we'll check it next time. Please leave your comments if you're watching this as a recording, and I'll make sure Dan or myself can help you out. So thank you.